For centuries, Ireland was among the poorest countries in Europe. But then, something incredible happened. Ireland's economy took off, and today it is one of the wealthiest nations in the world, surpassing countries like Switzerland and Qatar. Here's the paradox. Despite all the praise for Ireland, 70% of young people are considering leaving the country, primarily due to the economic situation. How is this possible? Why do people want to leave one of the wealthiest countries in the world? It turns out that Ireland's success story is not as perfect as it seems. This is the dark side of Ireland. To understand how Ireland went from poverty to the wealth it enjoys today, it's important to know some of the historical background behind this transformation. For much of its history, Ireland had a very different situation than it does today. First, as part of the United Kingdom, and later as an independent country, Ireland was characterized by poverty, an economy primarily based on agriculture, and serious development issues. The economy relied heavily on trade with the UK, and many people left the country in search of a better life, which did not contribute to improving the local economic situation. The situation didn't improve much over time. By the late 1980s, Ireland was still among the poorest countries in Western Europe. However, it finally found a formula for success. Ireland was part of the European Union, a bloc of countries that shared a single market where businesses could sell to all member states, paying taxes in only one of them. It was then that Ireland adopted the strategy of becoming a hub where foreign companies would choose to do business in the European Union. To attract these companies, Ireland implemented a combination of low taxes and economic incentives. Soon after, major US companies like Dell and Microsoft chose to establish their European headquarters in Ireland, not because of the market size, but because they would save a lot of money on taxes. This boosted the Irish economy. The taxes collected by Ireland boosted its economy like never before. In the 1990s and 2000s, it grew at a rate comparable to economies like Singapore or South Korea, earning the nickname Celtic Tiger. Then in 2008, Ireland faced a global economic crisis. Its response was to intensify its low-tax strategy, almost eliminating taxes altogether. Ireland effectively turned into a global tax haven, where many US companies began to tax all their global profits in Ireland, paying very little in taxes. Ireland took a small portion of a significant revenue. The nation emerged from the crisis as a Celtic phoenix, growing faster than ever and surpassing almost all other countries. In contrast to most of its history, Ireland experienced a population increase, as people were no longer leaving the country. On the contrary, many highly paid tech workers were moving to Ireland to work for major tech companies. Ireland came to enjoy its reputation as the new European Silicon Valley and an economic miracle. But strangely, many people still want to leave the country. Why does this happen, considering that everything seems to be going so well? Well, Ireland's success story starts to crumble when we look closer. Recently, a survey revealed that 7 out of 10 Irish people aged 18 to 24 are seriously considering leaving the country due to dissatisfaction with their quality of life. One of the main reasons for this is the severe housing crisis that Ireland has been facing for several years. The housing situation in the country is extremely complicated due to government policies that make it difficult to build urban housing and facilitate opposition and delays in approving new construction. As a result, there is a critical shortage of housing. Just a year ago, there were only 851 properties for rent in the entire country, which has a population of 5.1 million people. The situation has reached such a critical point that it has resulted in surreal scenes, such as hundreds of people lining up in the streets of Dublin just for a chance to view an apartment available for rent, with no guarantee of securing it. This illustrates the gravity of Ireland's housing problem, which isn't widely discussed. Despite the ongoing housing crisis and government promises, little progress has been made in resolving this issue. However, housing is just one example of poor management that extends to various areas in Ireland. This translates into difficulties in building basic infrastructure, such as roads and energy, and ongoing issues of overcrowding and resource shortages in the healthcare system. These issues highlight that, despite the apparent economic prosperity, Ireland faces management challenges that directly impact residents' quality of life. Here's the paradox. Despite the impressive economic numbers and Ireland's excellent reputation, real life, for many people, does not reflect this prosperity.
I'm born in Brazil, but I was in Portugal with my ex-wife, and then 3 robberies. Credit card, debit card, no money. My friend invited me to live here. she lent me some money to come. The first day I sleep with her. The second day she go back to Brazil because her grandma died. When I arrived here, just two tents here, and then look now, 50 piece person, 20 tents. I don't need say bad words or bad things about here. You know, they just read my accommodation or work permit. It's enough.
The explanation may lie in the idea that Ireland's wealth is not as solid as it seems. The Irish miracle may not be as genuine as it appears. Well, let's clarify this a bit further. Ireland's GDP per capita is 85,377 euros. This value is incredibly high. At first glance, this leads us to believe that Ireland's economy is exceptional. But if we look at other statistics, something strange happens. For example, the average salary is relatively high, but does not align with a GDP of over 85,377 euros. The average salary in Ireland is actually lower than in many Scandinavian countries and is similar to nations like the Netherlands, Belgium, and Austria. Despite this, Ireland's GDP per capita is considerably higher than these countries, nearly double. This is an economic puzzle that deserves further investigation. Other statistics reinforce this trend. For instance, household disposable income, which indicates the amount of money people actually have at their disposal, places Ireland below the European Union average. In other words, there is a noticeable discrepancy between the data that suggests Ireland's wealth and the reality of people's wealth. Why does this happen? Well, according to a theory widely acknowledged by many economists but contested by the Irish government, Ireland's wealth on paper is not as solid as it seems. This is partly because Ireland's GDP is primarily driven by global corporations that transfer their profits to Ireland. Even if those profits were not generated in the country, these companies are not Irish, and the profits leave the country without truly contributing to the Irish economy. This has been dubbed the leprechaun economy, an economy where the country's GDP does not reflect reality. Is Ireland a rich country? The short answer is no. The long answer is that Ireland is a country divided into two parts, one rich and one poor. The rich part of Ireland is where major tech companies like Google and Apple are based. These companies are highly profitable and generate a lot of money for the country. Ireland's high GDP is due to these companies. A Google software developer can earn a salary of $100,000 per year. On the other hand, the poor part is where most of the population lives, working in jobs unrelated to technology and receiving much lower wages. For example, a teacher may earn a salary of $40,000 per year, while a construction worker earns $25,000 per year. While the overall picture of Ireland may seem prosperous, this wealth benefits only a small portion of the population, leaving the majority of Irish people far from prosperity. While the wealthy part of Ireland receives more attention, it's essential not to lose sight of the poverty affecting the majority of the population. Additionally, the way Ireland's economy is assessed may hide some significant flaws. For example, the country has one of the world's highest national debts. However, due to the way we typically measure debt in relation to the size of the economy, this problem is not as evident. So, at first glance, Ireland seems to be doing well. But if we look beyond the GDP, we realize that the situation is not as positive as it seems. As economist Aaron Levinstein observed, statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot but hide the essential. So far, Ireland has managed to mask the true nature of its so-called economic miracle. However, this facade may not last much longer. International pressure against tax havens is increasing, and the days when Ireland could offer significant tax advantages to large foreign companies may be numbered. If this change occurs, Ireland's economic reality will be exposed, and its dark side may be revealed.